Hello guys, today we're going to take a look at the movie Repo, the genetic opera. Oh boy. Um, so this movie was made in 2008, it's rated R, and it's an hour 38 long. It has 6.6 out of 10 on the IMDb with 22,000-ish user votes, and it has 32% on Metacritic with 15 critics. It stars Paul Sorvino, who was in Goodfellas, and Alexa Pan- Pina Vega, or Alexa Vega, that's her original name, and she was in the Spy Kids movies. And it's directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, who directed some of the Saw movies, and I think co-wrote the first one, I believe. On Rotten Tomatoes, the movie has 40% by critics with 60 critics and 73% by audiences with 27,000-ish user audiences. And the critics' consensus on Rotten Tomatoes is bombastic and intentionally gross. Repo the Genetic Opera has a unique style but lacks the wit and substance to be involving. Interesting. So the movie is available to stream on Prime Video and the Roku channel, and it's also available to rent and buy on AMC On Demand, Redbox, Amazon, YouTube, Google Play, iTunes, Vudu, Fandango, and Microsoft Store. The movie was also released on DVD in 2009. So, my thoughts on it. So, before I looked this up, because I didn't look this up when I watched it, Corey showed me this movie, and I've also watched Guns Akimbo with her as well, and that was the previous video. Um, I thought it was great. I thought, you know what, for the people, because the thing, Twisted Pictures, they also made the Saw movies around this time too. I think this movie actually came out after Saw 3D, the official last one before, Jigsaw came out in like a year or two ago. Um, and it, and what I love about this movie is that it is, visually, this movie is like top notch. This is, and it's, again, I was kind of ranting a little bit about last videos, people criticizing old movies and not wanting to watch them because they're old, but yet loving movies that were made in the exact same style as old movies. And this movie is the same way, in all honesty. There's a lot of old school elements in this movie, like hammer horror, classic horror, mixed in with the blood and guts thing, but in all honesty, even then that's kind of old school, because you look at 80s movies were incredibly gory, and even the Hammer horror films were done in the 50s throughout the 70s, they had some gore stuff in there as well, so this movie does not have a lot of, like, stuff that makes you go like, ooh, this is so new, you know, the music's awesome. I love the music. It's a mix of classical. It's like operatic metal, because it's definitely a musical. Some people just sing it. Some people use some opera stuff in there as well. And the music is classical music, like strings and orchestra, and then you mix in a little metal guitar in there along the way. Um, it's a brutal movie, and it is gory. The gore effects, the special effects are awesome. On a technical level, this movie is 5 stars. Now, what people seem the problem with the writing, and the writing with the movie, I will say acting isn't an issue now. In fact, the guy who played Paul Sorvino, one of the main guys, he was. It's weird. This is such an ambitious role for him, because he was kind of the typecast gangster character. I mean, he always played a gangster. All the movies I've seen him in, he's played a gangster. And so seeing him do this role just really opens up. Now, I don't know how many of these actors actually sing and how many of them are just dubbed by other singers. I don't really know if that's the case or not, but if that's his singing voice, he has a great voice. um, but even despite that, it doesn't really. There's nothing that distracting really. The singing's great. The songs are good. There's nothing wrong with the songs. The story is what seems to get people. on this. And I think because the story is, oh man, the thing with the story is that this movie is a tragedy. It's not shy saying it's a tragedy. And it is based on a real stage play. I don't know how many liberties they took. I do know one big one that I can't give away because it'll give away too many spoilers. But it is, it is kind of an interesting change. But I won't say what it is. Um, but because the writing is, it has a lot of traditional tragedy stuff. Like there's twists and turns. Certain characters do this to manipulate these characters to do these things, and even though every single detail isn't revealed, the general gist of it happens, and not everyone gets their way, and things end, and then a new beginning arise. It's the typical tragedy stuff, where people know the character is bad, but they don't know why they're bad, because not every single detail, you get the gist, not every detail is revealed, da 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 da. It does follow that. And for people who've seen a ton of tragedies, I don't know how original this movie does that. I mean, visually it's original, but the key is, story wise, is it original? That's the trick. And there's definitely original elements within the story, but in terms of the plot and how it goes and everything, that's tricky. That might need to be looked at again. Um, do I think more could have been done with this world and all the characters and everything? I think it could have been. I I I think I would kind of like maybe the story was kind of maybe an anthology format where you had different characters in a row, kind of maybe like a Sin City musical vibe with it, like Sin City in terms of like the different stories, different characters intertwining at different times in this big world, and kind of maybe in the I and also this movie does have some horror movie vibes from the 80s, because in the 80s comic book horror was super popular in the 80s. Comic book style horror was super popular because the EC comics were huge. The comics that did Tales from the Crypt from the 50s and all that, they were super popular at this time. Like like you couldn't get away from horror anthologies anywhere on TV in the 80s. And horror movies, they were very, I don't want to say melodramatic, but there was kind of this dramatic, like, crescendo, like the low, the high, the big conclusion, the violence, the evil. It was cinematic, very cinematic horror. And this movie has those elements. They actually, a lot of their style is very comic booky. They mix that in with the classic like Hammer horror, classical Universal horror, and then the gore effects of the 80s, and even now, in present day, to a degree, it has a great mixture of all those things, and they blend them very well. Um, Nothing felt out of place. I just feel like they could have done a little more. I'm not saying the story they have now is bad. I'm not saying that. It's not. But if I was going to put myself in the perspective of the critics, I could see why they would want maybe a different take on the story. Maybe have different viewpoints, different storylines interconnect, forming one big thing or something. It definitely could have been a bit more ambitious. However, it could also have been convoluted, and then it could have made it hard to follow. And the audience for this movie, the people making this movie, I feel like this was right after Saw. Was it after Saw 7? Did the last Saw movie come out in 2007, or was it 2009? Well, it came out around the Saw movies were there, and the audience for the Saw movies, of course, they of course they're R rated, so they've been aimed for adults, but of course, teeny boppers, people like 16 to 18, high schoolers, middle schoolers, they're gonna watch them. So they're already kind of amped up on the 2000s horror vibes of of goth and hot topic. I grew up in that time, so I know. I grew up with these people. Um, so I can understand like they're like, okay, I want the people who were involved in this, like the writer of the Saw movie, some of the and director of some of the Saw movies, like, okay, I want to bring something to them that I can see him thinking, okay, I want to create something ambitious, but for that audience. Something that brings in all these cool horror and cinematic elements that they probably wouldn't have seen in present day movies, but put them in a way that would appeal to them. And I think they accomplished that very well at that time. Now, does the movie hold up to now? I think it does. In fact, you could argue that it holds up a little bit better because it's a very unique movie, and nowadays unique movies are kind of coming back a little bit, but again, they have something like this. I would applaud it if it came out today. I kind of just because it would have been a different kind of horror movie. I mean, back then we were kind of spoiled a little bit because we had the Saw movies back then, and they were definitely more original. I mean, there's great horror movies coming out now, like by you know by like Get Out and Jordan Peele horror movies and something like that, but I'm thinking of something a bit more traditional horror, like something good that was kind of old school throwback. You don't really see that in horror anymore. There always has to be a message. There always has to be. And the thing is, I don't mind horror movies with messages. It's just sometimes I want something cinematic. I want something visually striking. I want like I want like atmosphere. I want the grand monsters, gory and everything. I want the strong-jawed hero fighting away with a boomstick or a chainsaw or a machete or some shit or even a sword. Fuck it. I want the girl. I want like the beautiful girl. Like I don't know. They could write them. Helping him out, help setting the trap, or maybe she's in the clutches of the monster and he has to save her. I just love that kind of. I love all horror, but that kind of horror that horror that mixes in that classic cinema style and other ingredients. Because horror takes the most chances with mixing in different elements by far. Out of all the genres, it takes the most chances of mixing elements, and that's why I love it so much. Because it truly good horror always tries to be unpredictable to a degree. And this movie does that, so this is a great movie. I kind of trailed off a little bit, but this movie definitely, in my opinion, captures a lot of good stuff. And if it was underappreciated then by critics, I think a lot of it just has to do with the fact that the story kind of goes for a base tragedy. Well done, don't get me wrong, but but still, by the end of it, you're kind of like, man, it would have been nice if this was revealed, or maybe we saw more of this or that. I mean, it's only an hour and a half. It's not a long peek into this world, so you kind of have to really pay attention if you want to get as much of it as you can. So you could have expanded the world a little bit. You could have shown a bit more if you wanted to, but for what it is, I thought it was very good. I definitely recommend it. And yeah, guys, I recommend it. Check it out. I seen it on DVD for sure, but it's available. Might as well check it out, and with any medium you can. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the videos, and have a good day.